What makes someone dangerous? Is it about body counts and brutality? Or can the most threatening weapon be something else entirely? We're about to meet some women who built empires on blood and fear. One was a ruthless drug lord who bathed a city in violence. Another, a sadistic countess who tortured people for fun. These are the women who fill history books with terror. But we'll also explore a different kind of danger. We'll meet 10 women who built empires, defied expectations, and struck fear into the hearts of the powerful. And you'll find out why a union organizer, who never harmed a soul, was called the most dangerous woman in America by the very people she terrified. Number 10. Frederica Marm Mandelbaum. In the chaotic streets of Gilded Age New York, one woman quietly built America's first major organized crime syndicate. Her name was Frederica Mandelbaum, but in the underworld she was simply Marm. She came to America as a poor German Jewish immigrant in 1850 and started out as a street peddler. But Marm had a genius for organization. She turned her small shop into the nerve center of a massive criminal empire, becoming the most successful fence in American history. Marm didn't just buy and sell stolen goods, she practically cultivated crime itself. She started a crime school where kids were taught how to pick pockets and burgle by seasoned pros. She financed huge heists, including daring bank robberies, and had a network of thieves and con artists on call. At the height of her power, it's believed that property worth hundreds of millions in today's money passed through her hands. Standing at an imposing 6 feet tall and draped in silks and diamonds, Marm threw lavish parties for both high society and the city's most wanted criminals, all while bribing police and politicians to look the other way. Marm Mandelbaum never fired a gun, but for over 20 years she was the undisputed godmother of New York's criminal underworld. Number 9. Anna Politkovskaya. Not all danger comes from a gun. Sometimes it comes from a pen. Anna Politkovskaya was a Russian journalist who had a weapon more frightening to the powerful than any bomb: the truth. Working for the newspaper Novaya Gazeta, she dedicated her career to exposing the brutal reality of the Second Chechen War, writing about the human rights abuses and torture that Russian forces were inflicting on civilians. Her fearless reporting made her a hero to many, but a mortal enemy to the Kremlin. She gave a voice to the voiceless, reporting from war-torn villages when few others dared. Her work painted a grim picture of corruption and cruelty, directly challenging the official government story, and that made her dangerous. She was arrested, subjected to mock executions by the military, and was even poisoned on a flight while on her way to cover the Beslan school siege, an attack she survived. But the threats never stopped. Politkovskaya knew the risks. She wrote about the world with unflinching honesty, knowing her words were a direct threat to a regime built on silence. On October 7th, 2006, she was silenced for good. She was assassinated in the elevator of her Moscow apartment building, a contract killing widely believed to be payback for her reporting. Anna's story is a chilling reminder that in some places, the most dangerous thing a woman can do is simply tell the truth. Number 8. Stephanie St. Clair. In the vibrant, wild world of 1920s, Harlem, one woman rose to become a queen. Stephanie St. Clair, known as Queenie, was a force of nature, brilliant, stylish, and completely ruthless. An immigrant from the French West Indies, she took $10,000 and started her own illegal lottery, or numbers game. This wasn't just gambling. For the black community, it was like an underground stock market that created jobs and funded local businesses. Madame St. Clair ruled her Harlem empire with an iron fist and incredible flair. She was known for her high fashion style, her fierce temper, and her refusal to be intimidated by anyone. When the notoriously violent mobster Dutch Schultz tried to take over her territory, she declared war. While other racketeers caved, St. Clair fought back, teaming up with another Harlem enforcer, Bumpy Johnson. But her power wasn't just criminal. St. Clair was also a fierce advocate for her community. She took out full-page newspaper ads to expose corrupt police officers, which got more than a dozen cops fired after she testified in a major investigation. She also campaigned for black civil rights and taught her neighbors how to fight back against police brutality. She battled the mob, the police, and the system, all while building a personal fortune worth millions today. Stephanie St. Clair wasn't just a gangster, she was the Queen of Harlem. Number 7. Belle Gunness. In the quiet Indiana farmland of the early 1900s, a lonely widow was looking for love. At least, that's what her newspaper ads claimed. Belle Gunness, a formidable Norwegian immigrant, posted ads looking for a good and reliable man to join her on her farm. Dozens of hopeful guys with their life savings in their pockets made the trip to La Porte, Indiana. None of them were ever seen again. Belle Gunness wasn't a lonely widow, she was a butcher. Her farm wasn't a place of love, but a place of slaughter that would become known as the Murder Farm. It's believed she would poison her suitors, beat them with a club, and then dismember their bodies, burying the remains in her hog pen. The full horror was only discovered in 1908 when her farmhouse burned down. As authorities dug through the property, they started unearthing a graveyard. They found the remains of more than a dozen victims, though some suspect the true number could be as high as 40. And it wasn't just suitors. Her own husband had died from a suspicious head injury that Belle blamed on a falling meat grinder. 2 of her own children also died mysteriously, and each death came with a nice insurance payout for Belle. In the fire, authorities found the bodies of her remaining kids alongside a decapitated female corpse, thought to be Belle. But the body was never positively identified, leading people to wonder for decades if the mistress of the Castle of Death had faked her own death and simply walked away. Number 6. Jane Toppan. That is my ambition, to have killed more people, helpless people, than any other man or woman who ever lived. That was the chilling confession of Jane Toppan, a nurse whose friendly smile earned her the nickname Jolly Jane. But behind that cheerfulness was a cold-blooded killer who used her job to go on a horrifying killing spree. Working as a private nurse in late 19th century Massachusetts, Toppan turned sickbeds into deathbeds. She got a disturbing thrill from having power over life and death. She'd give her patients drug cocktails of morphine and atropine, watch them drift to the edge, then revive them, only to kill them for good later. She confessed she got a sexual thrill from holding her patients as they died, a motive that made her stand out from many other female serial killers. Her victims weren't just elderly patients she thought were useless. She poisoned her landlords, her friends, and even her own foster sister. For years, she moved from family to family, leaving a trail of death that no one noticed. Her spree finally ended in 1901 after she murdered an entire family. A toxicology exam on one of the victims revealed poison, leading investigators right to Jane. Though she confessed to 31 murders, she was suspected of many more. Found not guilty by reason of insanity, Jolly Jane spent the rest of her life in an asylum, remembered forever as a true angel of death. Number 5. Aileen Wuornos. For 1 year, the highways of Florida became a hunting ground. Between 1989 and 1990, 7 men were found dead along the roadsides, all of them shot. The killer was Aileen Wuornos, a drifter and sex worker whose life of trauma and abuse ended in a brutal murder spree that made her America's most notorious female serial killer. Wuornos' victims were all middle-aged men who had picked her up while she was hitchhiking. Her first victim, Richard Mallory, was a convicted rapist, and Wuornos later claimed she killed all the men in self-defense after they became violent. At first, this sparked a complicated public debate about victims and violence. But as the investigation went on, it became clear that Wuornos had also robbed her victims and pawned their belongings for cash. Her story was a tangled mess of survival, rage, and cold-blooded murder. After her girlfriend cooperated with police, Wuornos was arrested in January 1991. She was eventually convicted of 6 murders and sentenced to death. Her story, full of claims of self-defense that she later took back, both horrified and fascinated the nation, inspiring books and the movie Monster. Whether she was a victim lashing out or a predatory killer, Aileen Wuornos left a permanent scar on criminal history. Number 4. Ma Barker. During the Great Depression, the name Ma Barker struck fear into lawmen and bankers across America's heartland. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover called her the most vicious, dangerous, and resourceful criminal brain of the last decade. She was the matriarch of the infamous Barker-Karpis gang, a brutal crew known for robberies, murders, and kidnappings in the early 1930s. Arizona Donnie Barker, or Ma, raised her 4 sons, Herman, Lloyd, Arthur, and Fred, into a life of crime. The gang she supposedly led became one of the most feared public enemies of the era, but how much she was really in charge is up for debate. The FBI portrayed her as a criminal mastermind who planned every job, but others, including gang member Alvin Karpis, said that was a myth the FBI created to justify killing an old woman. They claimed Ma just went along for the ride and wasn't an active leader. Whatever her role, her story ended violently on January 16th, 1935. After a tip-off, FBI agents surrounded the Florida house where she and her son, Fred, were hiding. What came next was the longest shootout in FBI history. When the guns finally went silent 4 hours later, both Ma and Fred were dead. Myth or mastermind, Ma Barker became a legend of the gangster era, a name synonymous with crime and violence. Number 3. Daria Saltykova. In 18th century Russia, serfs were property and their lives depended on the whims of their owners. For the serfs who belonged to the noblewoman Daria Saltykova, that meant living in the shadow of a monster. A wealthy young widow, Saltykova ruled over a huge estate near Moscow, where she unleashed a reign of sadistic terror that earned her a spot among history's most twisted killers. Known as Saltychika, she acted like a devout woman in public but was a demon in private. For the tiniest mistake, like a poorly washed floor, she would personally torture her servants, who were mostly young women and girls. Her methods were sickening. She would flog them for hours, pour boiling water on them, burn their hair and tear at their skin with hot tongs. Some were beaten to death, while others were left naked in the freezing Russian winter to die. For years, her power and influence protected her, but the sheer number of deaths on her estate, investigators confirmed at least 38 murders, but suspected it was as high as 138, couldn't be ignored. Finally, Empress Catherine the Great ordered a public trial to make an example of her. Found guilty, Saltykova was publicly shamed on a scaffold in Moscow before being locked away for life in the pitch-black cellar of a convent. She stayed there for decades, a chilling symbol of absolute evil. Number 2. Griselda Blanco. They called her La Madrina, the godmother. Before Pablo Escobar, there was Griselda Blanco. She pioneered the cocaine trade that flooded Miami with drugs and blood in the 70s and 80s. She was the queen of a billion-dollar narcotics empire, a woman whose ambition was matched only by her talent for shocking violence. Blanco was a true innovator in the drug trade. She designed lingerie with hidden pockets for smuggling cocaine and is often credited with perfecting the motorcycle assassination, where a gunman could strike and vanish into city traffic. At its peak, her organization was reportedly smuggling tons of cocaine into the US every month, making her an estimated $80 million a month. Her reign was defined by pure brutality. Nicknamed the Black Widow for her habit of getting rid of her husbands, Blanco is believed to be responsible for ordering hundreds of murders, with some sensational estimates reaching as high as 2,000. Her hitmen carried out public massacres, including a notorious shootout at Miami's Dadeland Mall. She operated with a complete disregard for human life, once ordering a hit that accidentally killed a 2-year-old boy. After being arrested in 1985, she spent nearly 2 decades in prison before being deported to Colombia. In 2012, her violent life came to a fitting end. She was shot and killed by a motorcycle assassin, a victim of the same method she helped popularize. Number 1. Mother Jones. From a cocaine godmother who built an empire on terror to a countess who tortured for pleasure, the danger has been obvious, measured in violence and death. But is dangerous always violent? Our number 1 most dangerous woman never killed a single person. She never ran a criminal empire, yet she was feared so much by some of the most powerful men in the country that a district attorney declared her the most dangerous woman in America. Her name was Mary Harris Jones, but the world came to know her as Mother Jones. Barely 5 feet tall and usually dressed in a simple black gown and bonnet, she looked like someone's grandmother. But this Irish immigrant was a self-proclaimed hellraiser, and her battlefield was the heart of industrial America. Her danger wasn't to people's lives, but to a system built on exploitation. After losing her husband and 4 children to yellow fever, Then losing everything she owned in the Great Chicago Fire, Mary Harris Jones dedicated her life to the working class. She became a tireless labor organizer, traveling to the harshest coal mines and mill towns in America, where workers, including little kids, toiled in deadly conditions for pennies. Her voice was her weapon. With fiery speeches, she could inspire thousands of beaten-down men to drop their tools and walk out, organizing massive strikes that shut down entire industries. It was her success with miners that led a West Virginia district attorney in 1902 to call her the most dangerous woman in America. He argued, "She comes into a state where peace and prosperity reign, crooks her finger, and 20,000 contented men lay down their tools and walk out." Her most famous protest was the March of the Mill Children in 1903. To show the world the horrors of child labor, she led a group of child workers from the mills of Philadelphia all the way to President Theodore Roosevelt's summer home in New York. This stunt brought national attention to the issue and helped lead to child labor reform. Mother Jones was arrested over and over, faced down armed guards, and was even sentenced to 20 years in prison at age 82 for her role in a violent strike. She lived to be 93, a testament to her unbreakable spirit. She was dangerous not because she caused harm, but because she threatened the profits of the powerful by demanding dignity for the powerless. Conclusion. So who's really more dangerous? The woman who builds a criminal empire on a mountain of bodies, or the one who inspires an idea that can bring down an unjust system? We've met killers driven by pure evil and crime bosses motivated by power. But we've also met women who were called dangerous just for demanding change. Maybe the answer depends on what you're more afraid of. The spectacular violence of a Griselda Blanco, which is terrifying and immediate, or the quiet, persistent courage of a Mother Jones, an idea that can change the world? Who do you think is the most dangerous woman in history? Let us know in the comments below. And for more stories about historical figures who broke the mold, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and seeing you in the next video.